Oh,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. This is off to the races right at the start.
I thought it was on my end for a second.
No, I
Okay.
muted myself for some reason. Um, but how are you doing with all of the success that Knock at the Cabin has had since its release?
I'm doing well. I'm currently in LA. I've been like mostly in LA. I'm from Michigan, so I've been back and forth between the two. Life has felt pretty normal. I guess since if anything, it felt like the craziest time was actually filming and um being in that environment. And then since then it's kind of been like a letting go almost.
Well, yeah, and I think I like Knock at the Cabin a lot. I like truly and honestly, I like sat on it too long, so I never wrote it up, but I like thought about writing a piece about Dave Bautista's character and just kind of like how I felt for these people who were put in a situation where it was like they couldn't win, and like as the audience we are kind of tricked into hating them, and then the more you learn about them you're like, oh, I feel bad because it's not, they're not doing anything, they're like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
But for you as like as an actor and you're working with M. Night, who we always know there's some twist or there's something that like you know it's coming. What was it like working in that environment and like getting to play with kind of audience expectations and the characters that we ended up getting to meet in the movie?
That I'd done before. I We luckily had, I think, like a week and a half to rehearse with the entire cast and in Knight's office, and we got to see all of his storyboards. So we saw every shot that was going to be shot before, even filming. So just like immediately, it felt I felt a safety in knowing that he knew exactly what his script was saying and exactly where these characters were going, and was able to provide us with any answer to a question that we would have
Mhm.
about the world, because it is pretty scary to be a part of a movie like this. And I think it takes some big risks and asks a lot of the audience. So as an actor, sometimes that can be daunting before going into it. But yeah, I think we all just the cast, I feel like, are all pretty similar in how open we all are, and our personalities just really meshed well together. So it also felt like we had a support system within each other, and very lighthearted moments intertwined with the intensity of filming too.
Yeah, and I what I really liked about this movie too, I think, which is fascinating from like an actory standpoint, is like this when the four of them show up, the four horsemen, as it were, all show up to this house. They seem as a unit, they seem like they know each other, but then we learn like throughout the movie that they just were alerted that they have to do this thing. None of them really like have ever met each other, but you guys as actors made it so that like we as the audience think, oh yeah, they walk around, they do this all the time and know each other, which is not the reality. So how did you guys kind of navigate finding that balance of like camaraderie, understanding of each other, while also like essentially tricking us into thinking these people know each other when they don't?
Yeah, I think, well, I guess it helped because at the beginning, I think about until, a week in, we were virtually strangers
Mm-hmm.
still, didn't totally know each other at a deep level yet. So I think it did kind of mirror where those four horsemen are in their relationship to each other, because at that point we know that, they were chatting online for a little bit, and that they shared a commonality in their visions and in what was, driving them to this house. So there was some common ground, but they really had only met in person that day. So it felt like it did kind of mirror our experience, at least those first couple weeks. And then I think we just got, we developed the muscle of having fun 1 second and talking about our weekend with each other and what we did together, and then like clicking into being strangers and being really intense and agitated. So we just kind of, I think, developed that skill with one another and knew that, it's time to shut that off now, like our camaraderie and whatever we were talking about. So yeah, I think that's how we got there together.
And with an M Night movie, is like, again, we all know kind of what we're getting into when we go and see these
Yeah.
movies. Like we know exactly like, well, we don't know exactly what's going to be, but we know like at some point there's probably going to be a twist. This is like the formula of an M Night movie is ingrained, I think, especially in like millennials who grew up
Mhm.
watching his movies.
Yeah.
But as an actor approaching a role, how much do you get to kind of have an input in your character and what you feel like how they would react to some situation, and how much is ingrained in that script the minute you get it?
I I would say the majority is ingrained in the script.
Mhm.
Um, but I think the rehearsal period was very helpful because I think as soon as we start shooting, everything is so quick paced and it's so many specific shots, and like there's really no time once we get on set to ask, to sit down for like 30 minutes and talk about a scene. So that was very much the tone once we started filming, that, what's on the page, this is what we've come to do, and it's all in the writing and in the script. But that week beforehand, I did get to talk with Knight over lunch one day, just about like trying to carve out this character and make her feel true to me. And again, like finding that within the script. And I think we even changed at that point some of her dialogue. I can't speak to everyone else's experience, but that was really cool for me because I got to say, I got to have some input on what felt real and truthful,
Mm-hmm.
what felt okay for me to actually say. Sometimes things can feel clunky depending on the person. So, and he was totally um, open to that and like adapted dialogue based on what I felt comfortable with.
It's awesome. And I think with this movie, it is so kind of jarring in a lot of ways how it is, this idea like cabin in the woods and there's no one around and it's just your family. And then the reality is like, yeah, but then you can get murdered by four people for the whole of
Yeah.
humanity.
Yeah.
Um, and but it did become kind of one of those like movies that we all loved talking about for weeks on end. Like I said, I couldn't stop thinking about Dave Bautista. But for you, what has been like your favorite moment post this movie coming out that like you've seen someone talking about or experience with somebody?
Well, I think at the premiere, I got to invite a lot of my family, and it was in New York, and I live in LA,
Mhm.
but luckily, like one of my best friends from the time I was 3 lives in New York, so she was there, and then someone else from my childhood, my brother's best friend who I hadn't seen in years, I invited him, and he showed up. So it was kind of uh this incredible moment of like seeing the film and the blending of two worlds. Like I'm meeting with all these people I worked with as an adult, and then I'm next to people who've known me my entire life.
Mhm.
And I think it just kind of made the whole experience, it just kind of like brought me back to the, if I were 7 and when I wanted to be an actor as a kid, it just like reminded me of that and was really surreal to for them to be seeing this movie that I'm in, and just like how big the entire event was. I think that was like the most fun and surreal moment since the movie has come out, I think.
Yeah, I can't. Thank you for just talking with me today. I can't wait for people who haven't seen Knock at the Cabin to see it, just because I think it is one of those. It's one of the better. And I like M Night's movies, but this is one of the ones that I was like, oh, this is really good. Like people should see Knock at the Cabin
Yeah.
in theaters, but I'm excited for them to see it in the home release now.
Yeah, me too.
But thank you so much for talking to me today. I really appreciate it.
It was great meeting you.
Great meeting you.